Καλησπέρα. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ που ήρθατε. Έχω φύγει από την Ελλάδα πριν 32 χρόνια και έτσι τα ελληνικά μου δεν είναι αρκετά καλά να κάνω αυτή την ομιλία και θα αλλάξω στα αγγλικά και συγγνώμη για αυτούς που ίσως να έχουν δυσκολία να το καταλάβουν. I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be here because this is part of a journey and a dream. I want to actually have a huge round of applause for Nikki, where is she, because of what she's done in bringing everyone together. And as a 7-year TEDster, I can tell you that the ideals of TED, what TED in Long Beach or Monterey have meant for years, are actually personified here. So as a TEDster, I welcome you to the TED community. I'm proud to be one. I hope you're proud to be one. And I want to leave you with this message about TED. TED is about community. It's really about the exchange of ideas, not just in here, but with the people around you, with the people next to you. So get to know who they are, exchange business cards, contact information, and start a movement. Nikki started a movement. It's called TEDx Academy in Athens, and I'm proud to be a follower, because every leader needs followers. So I come to Greece quite often, and the reason I'm here really as a private citizen. I work for a large multinational corporation, a small startup actually, in Redmond, Washington. And what I love about this place is its people and the land. And that's what brings me back. That's what allows me to contribute, is what gives me the energy to come back over and over and try to do what I can to help. And I've been watching what's happening in this country, and I'm concerned. Greece is a place I was born and is a place I love coming back to. I look forward to bringing my children back to, but I want to also make a difference. Now, I'm not here from Seattle to tell you what I think is happening in Greece. You all know what's happening here. I talk to a lot of people just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, and amazingly, you are. I put down what I would consider sort of my top 3 list, and then a paramount 4th, which is trust. Unless you have trust in a system, in an ecosystem, in a government, in a community, in a social construct, in a society, you really don't have good conversations. You don't have good conversations with yourself, you don't have good conversations in your relationships, and you don't have good conversations in your business world. And what ends up happening there is what I call the cycle of doom, which is a bad conversation leads to a worse conversation, it just sort of cycles down. And with that, you have basically a low common denominator conversation, low common denominator dreams, and low common denominator outcomes. So I want to encourage you to start thinking about how you can start trusting one another. And I want to also point out that trust is a key component in everything I'm going to talk to you today, which is about trends, about innovation and its role with those trends, and then lastly about fear, which is really an odd 3-item or 3-topic set there, but they're inextricably linked. So what I'm looking is about looking forward. I'm not looking about looking past. And when I think about it, what I'm seeing out there in the rest of the world as I travel around in my day-to-day job, and also as a citizen of this world, is basically what I'm looking for is basically a new attitude. Things are going digital. Everything is being digitized. And with that comes tremendous opportunity. The internet that is really now starting to gain critical mass, where technologies are being linked together, technologies on the front end, on the social space, for example, and in the back end, in enterprise resource planning systems, are actually coming together to start making sense, to start impacting people's lives. Technology is also becoming incredibly cheap. And that's great news for Greece, because Greece, at least in my myopic opinion, in the limited time that I've spent here, has been fundamentally based around light manufacturing, agriculture, tourism, and service industries. There's also a strong banking sector. But for the most part, that's pretty much it. All of those, if you think about it, are high capital-intensive industries. You need a lot of money to either build a hotel, start a bank, buy a bunch of land to farm, and to do any of those activities. What technology allows you to do is to sit, get a couple of friends from this room together, sit in your living room, and write code, think about a new business plan, think about a new business, and actually use the technology that is out there to make a huge difference. So what I'm seeing is basically a new kind of company, a new kind of IP, a new kind of spirit that's really coming about that I think Greece can take advantage of. Where you don't need a lot of money, where all you need is smart people, and Greece has lots of those. You need a lot of support, And you can get that in Greece. I've seen it. And you need discipline to sort of follow through with it. I'm going to give you a couple of ideas of how technology and opportunity in Greece can make a huge difference. And those are a couple of ideas that I've been thinking about. So I have my favorite Greek island, like most of you do. And in my favorite Greek island, I got a parking ticket in August when I was here with my family. So I got an 80 € parking ticket, and a whole bunch of interesting things that I can get into for a half hour happened. But what ended up happening is I studied the workflow of a parking ticket. In other words, who issues it, where does it get paid, how does it get logged in, how does it get taken care of, how do you erase it from the record of still needing to be paid and so forth. And I concluded that an 80 € parking ticket, which costs 40 euros if you pay it within 10 days, actually cost the government 200 euros. Now, you don't have to be a real big businessman to realize that that's not a really good business to be in. Now, we need to maintain parking facilities and so forth, but it's actually a bad model. But here's the great news. Today, and I could probably find 10 people in here that could help me, 20 or 30 actually, we can build a system sitting in the cloud, in the intranet, depending on how you want to perceive it, and actually build a system to address that and take that cost practically down to zero. It's an exaggeration, probably 20 euros. In terms of time. And we can do it in one day, we can do it today, and we can do it for free. The technology is there, it's proven, security is there, so on and so forth. That's innovation. We can actually fix things through technology. Venture capital is another one of my things that I'm thinking about as it regards to Greece these days. Venture capital is something that without investors, the whole system sort of has a problem. And the problem is you need investment to actually get innovation into the real world, into the market, to get it to have impact with customers. Now, the best part is you need less and less investment because costs are just being driven down every day, which is a real wonderful thing. But you still need some kind of venture capital. And I think there's a huge opportunity for Greece to change the way it thinks about investment. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I've talked to that tell me investors think about themselves as bankers, like where you have to repay the loan. And it's not really about that. It's about taking a risk with someone. It's about dreaming with someone. And it's about a really big payday. Sand Hill Road in Palo Alto and the Menlo Park area, London, other places of the world are littered with billionaires made on this model. The model is evolving, but the model could work here. And I think we need to look at that. But fundamentally, I think in Greece, we can start building idea companies. Not just our large infrastructure companies, which are also very good, but idea companies, which really takes advantage of what's happening in the internet, takes advantage of global presence, brings together all the various technologies, and then allows Greece and Greeks to really compete. I'm going to give you two quick examples, and then a little bit of a technology lesson. I have met literally in the last month several Greek companies that are based in the US, but all the development is happening in Greece. So I saw some great advertising the other day, and in looking at it, I said, wow, where is this stuff happening? He said, Larissa. And I said, Larissa, that's not a huge creative hub. It turns out it actually is. And they're doing a great job. This company is getting contracts with companies like Johnson & Johnson and Aetna, with 3 people in Philadelphia or 5, and 10 of them actually doing the work in Larissa, and everyone's happy. I saw another gentleman who's a speaker who also has a company in a similar kind of model. In other words, Greeks can be global. We were global before global was even global. I mean, we were global way back. We can be global again. Virtual reality shopping is another one of the things I'm thinking about a lot, and it brings together VoIP, communications technologies, web technologies, catalogs, online virtual tours, and so forth. And it allows people to dream big and to put it all together, so to the point where you can actually sit on your couch. This is real. This is not a fantasy. Sit on your couch, go to Kotsovolos, look at a refrigerator virtually from your living room, open the door, look at it, decide if you want to buy it, purchase it online, compare prices before you do. And then if you really want to go look at it because you want to see what the gaskets feel like, you print a map of the store and the exact position of the refrigerator. I've worked on this with a couple of American companies. So the point here is, the world is changing, Greece can participate, and fundamentally it has to. Because if it doesn't, it's going to be stuck. And technology can help get you unstuck. So we talk a lot about innovation. Innovation is a huge buzzword and everyone talks about it. And now I think there's a little bit of confusion of what it means. So I'll quickly say that innovation is not about invention. It can be, but it's not necessarily about invention. Innovation and the requirement for innovation is basically there to satisfy a need in the marketplace, an unmet need. And it could be by combining things like technology mashups. It could be by combining things like clever marketing campaigns and so forth. But it's really about bringing things together to solve a problem that a customer will want to pay for. So I have some examples here, and I won't bore you with all of these. But I'll take one of people's favorites, which is the iPod. Hello? There we go. The iPod. So the iPod was about the fifth or sixth MP3 player on the market. And then the question is, was the iPod really innovative? Well, what did they do? They did an amazing job around design. They did an amazing job around marketing. And it's now become the de facto standard in audio devices. And it gets really, really interesting because a lot of people would think you have to basically invent a category, and you actually don't. My favorite real example here is Zappos. Zappos is a shoe company. And if I was a Greek that owned a shoe company, I was trying to figure out, how do I become innovative as a shoe company? It's a hard thing to do. There are many online shoe companies. Well, Zappos decided that the innovation in the shoe business was free shipping for returned merchandise. Doesn't sound very innovative. Except they got a huge part of the market to the point where Amazon bought them for almost $1 billion. So there's a very old industry, shoes. You put a little bit of technology and a little bit of ingenuity around free shipping for returned merchandise, because everyone knows shoes don't fit exactly the way you think they always do, and you have $1 billion business. This is the way we need to retrain ourselves to think. Pattern recognition, I think, is key here in terms of needs and what you can do to address them. So I have 10 rules for innovation, and I actually love the first, the fifth, and the 10th. First, alignment. Alignment is really about aligning yourself, your idea, the people you have with you, your investment, to the market. You can't have innovation stick and have real market influence without alignment. This is my favorite one for Greece, by the way. I could talk to you guys about some crazy idea I have in here, and you're all going to go, there's 32, 52, 65 ideas as to why this won't work. I know I can do that very well, too. And I have to stop myself. Because innovation and change is about saying yes. It's not about saying no. So I implore you, when someone comes up with a great idea that they think is a great idea, that you're skeptical about, reserve judgment. Tell them yes, how can I help? How can I encourage you? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And fundamentally, if they fail, which is a really bad thing in some societies, including ours, encourage them to try again. Because failure is a mother of all lessons. That's how you truly learn. There are a lot of people that if you say, well, this person failed and that person has succeeded, who would you hire? I think I would probably lean, within the right context, of course, to the person that has failed. Because I think they would have learned more in the process and didn't get as lucky as the other person in the past. Success is hard to replicate. And we overvalue that. So what's your role about each of you as an innovator? Because each of you is an innovator. I know everyone I talk to has some great ideas in this country. But there's some fundamental things that I think people need to do as innovators. And there they are. I'm not going to read them for you. But I think in terms of Greece, I think really it's about failing fast and commitment and thinking about things long term. Because long-term thinking is what actually gets you to build a real business. And unfortunately, there are no shortcuts to building a real business. You can't invent, you can't synthesize, you can't sell, you can't do it again in a quick time. The days of quick money anywhere are over. And thank God, because it's not sustainable. You need to create real value. You need to have real value exchange with your customers in order to be successful. So here's an interesting note, and I did a little bit of research on here. Can somebody tell me what all these people have in common? I'm only going to answer the first hand. Hand? No, okay, great. What they have in common is that they were all in their 20s when they invented whatever they invented. So whether it's DNA or astrophysics or technology companies, young people are the inventors of most of these things. In their 20s. The lesson here is that youth and creativity is inextricably linked. If you just do the math and you do the data and you do the research, you'll find that out. So what I implore you to do is there's some older people here, there's some younger people here, there's some younger at heart people here, but in general, support the young people around you. I think it's critical. I think we need to help young people succeed. They'll take the risks, they're creative, and we can help them with other things that it takes to do that. So I want to get to fear, which is probably the weirdest component of my speech. But fear, I think, is a driving force. I think fear, the fear of failure, the fear of being rejected, the fear of not being supported, is huge. And people are naturally risk averse. So this is a great quote. And I will take improvement and put down innovation. Innovation is always change. Change is not always an improvement. And change is always a source of fear. We have to accept that and we have to embrace that. I know a lot of people here are getting to the point where they're thinking, I don't know how to change this country. I don't know what I can do. I don't think that it's ever going to really change. I hear that from so many people. And I'm here to tell you that that's how systems start. Systems start to change when people finally have enough and they decide they themselves are going to empower themselves, hold on to their power and do something about it, even in their small limited sphere. So when you have a great idea and people say it can't happen, it won't happen, the big company's going to eat your lunch, don't listen to it. Because if everyone did that, then nothing would actually evolve and there would be no change in the market. So fear can hold us back, and I implore you to help people get courage and not hold you back. So I have a little vision, and here's my vision for Greece. A country that successfully participates in the new technological revolution. And what that means is get people training, get them engaged, help them identify opportunities, support them with investment, help them get to market, and stop thinking about the boundaries of Greece. That is my dream for Greece. I think there's a huge opportunity for us to innovate our way out of the situation that Greece is in today. And I think we all need to take advantage of it. And more importantly, I think everyone in this room is here, but because you all have a role in that. So I want to end with a favorite Bill Gates quote, which I think is very apropos. People overestimate the amount of change that will occur in the next 2 years, but grossly underestimate the change over the next 10 years. And don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. When I first went to Microsoft, my first manager said to me one thing. He said, when in doubt, do something. A lot of people would say, are you crazy? What are you going to do? You don't even know. You haven't done the assessment. You don't have the 20-page document to prove it. It worked. Trust me, it worked. The real question now for you is, what will you do? Thank you.